Hello and welcome to Funstock podcast. We've got a very special guest today. We've got Sam Dyer from Bitmap Books. You're obviously very familiar with him. He's created several great books, the C64 Visual Compendium, the Amiga Visual Compendium, and then we're going to talk today about the ZX Spectrum Visual Compendium. So hello, Sam.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Andy.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate this.
That's all right.
Do you want to give us a bit of a background about Bitmap Books and why you created it? And that'd be interesting.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it all started really when I was a child growing up with the Commodore 64 originally, and I was always fascinated by the pixel art. As we all know, the games used to take about 15 minutes to load, and used to get the loading screen come up, and I used to actually quite look forward to the loading phase because you got to look at these amazing bits of pixel art on the screen, these sort of loading screens that these guys had created. And I just remember just being a kid, just being like, wow, how the hell have they done that? Done this amazing, picture of RoboCop or whatever. And it sort of stayed with me really. And I was always artistic as a child and sort of went into my chosen career, which was graphic design. But I always regard the Commodore 64 as a huge influence on me as a child, my sort of graphic styles, and it really got me into using computers professionally, dabbling around in Deluxe Paint on the Amiga, which then went on to using it professionally, with in Photoshop. For about the last sort of 5 years, I'd always, since I sort of getting back into sort of the whole sort of retro gaming sort of thing, playing these old Commodore 64 games again, I always thought it'd be how lovely it would be to sort of fuse my two passions, which are design and the Commodore 64, sort of retro gaming in general, and create a book. And that's really how it started. I think I created the Commodore 64, a visual compendium, which really did, as I said, sort of fuse those two passions. So the whole idea was that it was a design sort of coffee table book, so it was aesthetically really nice thing to have, but also obviously it was full of this nostalgic imagery to do with the Commodore 64, and that was where it all sort of started really with Bitmap Books. As I'm sure people know, after that I did a book on the Commodore Amiga, which was the second in the Visual Compendium series, which again was really popular. Some of the feedback I've had and the support from the community, people like Funstock and everyone else in the community has been amazing really. I'm quite self-critical, so I'll always look at something and think, oh, I wish I'd done it like that, or I wish I'd used that image there. And I think you're right, sort of took that through into the Amiga book, and then I've actually taken all the learnings from the first two books, and then in my latest book, which is on the ZX Spectrum, I think I've really, I personally think it's my best book so far. I'm really, really proud of how it's looking at the moment, and I think it really is a refined version of the first two books.
So we talk about the new book. What kind of things can people expect to see inside it in terms of content?
The title of the book is Sinclair ZX Spectrum, a Visual Compendium. So it follows the same idea as the first two books. So it really does focus on all the visual aspects of the system. The three main sort of areas really are game imagery, so pixel art imagery. There's quite a lot of photography in the book, which has been professionally taken of the various systems. Also, there are game maps in the book as well. Okay. So for certain games, so I'm sure people have seen game maps before, but these have actually been so all the screens from the game have been sort of stitched together in one giant image.
Oh, wow.
And it's really cool to see actually, because obviously we never used to see it like that as kids. And visually they're really, really cool.
So you can kind of plot the whole game from start to finish.
Exactly. I mean, some games are so huge they won't fit on one page, so it's maybe just one level.
Right.
But so that's really cool. And the book goes in chronological order. So it will start off in 1982.
Okay.
When the 48K Spectrum first came out, the old rubber keyed Spectrum. And it goes right through up until 92, I think, I go up to.
Wow.
Looking at some of the later releases like Slightly Magic and Extreme. And I've also commissioned some bespoke pixel art for the book. So this is one of the things I think which I think is really, really cool. So instead of just showing images of other people's pixel art, I've commissioned some pixel art from a guy called Craig Stevenson.
Okay.
Now, he actually creates this art on an actual ZX Spectrum. And
Wow.
it's completely true to
old school.
Yeah, proper old school, and it's proper true to how it should look.
Wow.
So throughout the book, there's these sort of images from him sort of peppered throughout, and I think it just gives it that sort of a bit of a point of difference, I suppose.
Yeah.
It makes it feel a bit like this is exclusive pixel art and stuff that hasn't been seen before, which is pretty cool.
We've got interviews, we've got unique artwork, we've got commissioned artwork, we've got pixel art, got photography. Is there anything else in there? Is there any interesting stories about what might have happened to the Spectrum through its period or anything?
Yeah, there's got quite a few other sections, actually. I'll just sort of run through sort of the other features in the book.
Cool.
There's a section on the creation of the ZX Spectrum. There's a section on ZX Spectrum memories. So we've asked each contributor to the book to let us know their memories of the ZX Spectrum. And that ranges from when they might have had it as a child, with their first experiences,
cool,
through to when they used to work with it professionally, and some of the memories. ZX Spectrum art. So again, similar to the memories section, this is people commenting on their memories of the visual style of the Spectrum. So
right.
people moaning about colour clash and how they used to get around it. And I think that the big point from this section is it was so limited, but it was so limited that gave the guys, that made them creative. It made them have to be creative, and it made them really do some amazing things with it. Just quickly, I've got a section on Crash magazine, a section on Your Sinclair magazine, and a section on Sinclair User magazine, where I've shown front cover imagery of some classic sort of covers of the mags, and also got some comments from ex-editors, ex-writers from all of those magazines. Then there's a section on game logos, which is something I've not done before in the previous two books, but I mean, being a graphic designer, I love logos, so I thought like a nice sort of double page spread showcasing some of the best logos, which some of them are really awesome. Double page spread on the best loading screens.
Wow.
And finally at the back there's a section on the Russian homebrew scene, which I don't know if any of the listeners are sort of familiar with this, but during the 90s, once the ZX Spectrum in Europe had sort of faded away completely, we'd all moved on to the Amiga or the Atari ST or the Super Nintendo. These guys in Russia, their economy was completely sort of screwed, really.
Okay.
And somehow got hold of the sort of schematics, or they pulled apart a ZX Spectrum.
They reverse engineered it.
Yeah, and they started creating their own. And, these were really sort of bodge jobs, really, soldered together and cheap plastic cases. But these kids growing up in Russia, used them throughout the 90s, and that's all they had. And because it was all they had, they were all doing pixel art, they were, doing demos and making music. And it's those guys then that are sort of our age now that are making these amazing games and really pushing the Spectrum to its limit. So it's just a little section at the back showcasing that, and I thought it was a subject that hadn't been covered before.
I think if you start you're not on a level playing field, are you? So you've got to kind of work twice as hard, because the system's not doing half the work for you. So that, I think, once you go onto like a proper Spectrum or modern technology, God, you can't imagine what they're doing now.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. Yeah, so that's it. And plus, there's about 120 games featured in the book. Each game is on a double page spread. Nice big image of that. So there's quite a lot crammed into 304 pages.